everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome back to this episode of Family in Focus here on PHLV Radio, brought to you by the Asian Community Development Council. Good to have you all here with us today. It is International Women's Day. If you haven't heard, it's all over social media. Everyone sharing stories of great women in their lives, in their workplaces, and we're happy to be doing it here today on this episode this Monday. We're going to feature some remarkable women who've started their business and share their journeys, and we wanted to highlight them today, especially these two women I'm going to be introducing to you as part of our show today. First, we have Amina Abdul-Jalil. She is the luxury shoe designer joining us here from Las Vegas. And also we have our certified life coach, Rigar Tang, who is also based here in Las Vegas as well. Thank you to you both for being with us here on the show today and to share a little bit about your businesses, especially as you launched this business as Rigar did during the pandemic. And for Amina, she started this business about a decade ago, but you're obviously gone through a lot during your journey as well. And I wanted to hear your story and what you can share with our viewers today. As you know, as I said, International Women's Day, just really focusing on the contributions that women have made in the business world. So, Amina, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about your story. You actually started your career not as a shoe designer, but as a professional dancer, right?
Yes. So I pursued dance out of high school. I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, and moved to LA when I was about 17. To pursue dance. I've toured the world with Britney Spears, Janet Jackson. Later on in my career, what brought me to Vegas, actually, I worked with Cirque du Soleil on a resident show here before I started my business. And at that point, I transitioned into designing shoes. So here I am. Here I am.
So what got you from dancing to shoes? Was it something, did you start with dance shoes, or what is it about shoes that got you interested in? Like, this is my passion.
Yes, I've always been interested in fashion, even when I was dancing on my down times. When I would come home from tour, I would take classes at a fashion college in LA. So it was just simple classes like sewing, illustration, things like that. So I've always had an interest, and it started out as a hobby that I later on, kind of turned into my life, my career.
Yeah, and I know you've launched this. This has been kind of a global brand now. You started small, but this has kind of gone all over. You have your own website. I think we have some pictures of some of the shoes that you design, which is amazing. And you actually have a deal with Macy's, right? A new campaign coming out this spring.
Yes. So I started, and I still run my business that way, but I'm direct to consumer. So mostly people can come on and purchase from my website. I have accounts where we have retailers worldwide as well, boutiques. And I just recently have 3 exclusive collections that are going to be available at Macy's starting March 22nd. So,
wow, that's amazing. But so you had that career. You got career pivot as well. You said for a dancer to a shoe designer. I wanted to bring Rigar Tang here because, when I started talking to you and learning more about you, you had that pivot in your career as well, come from similar to Amina, from the fashion world to life coach, which just seems completely different. So give us your version of how you made that step over to the next career.
Yeah, so it's absolutely 180 degrees change, I would say. Actually, being a life coach is my third career. My first career, I was in marketing. And then 2008 market crash, I got laid off. Then I was like, you know what? It's time to chase my dream, which is in makeup industry. So I flew back to Hong Kong in 2010 and to learn makeup. And then I lived in San Francisco, LA, and New York for the last 10 years, and to just pursuing my makeup dream. And I thought that this is going to be my rest of my life job. And then 3 years ago, I realized that I developed depression and anxiety without knowing. And I started going to therapy, and I was like, you know what, even though I really, really love fashion, it's just not matching my lifestyle, and it's just really toxic for me because it's very, when you're on set for 10, 12, 14 hours a day, and you just know what's coming, and you're constantly waiting for money in a sense. So I just want to walk out from that lifestyle into more stable lifestyle, and I'm able to control my life that way. And because of my unique experience, and I want to spread a message for letting people know that having a depression and having an anxiety is not a shame. It's just a chapter of life, and you can turn that around and become a stronger person.
And I think that's great. And I think that that experience you got, and I know you told me about this before, really kind of drives you to want to help other people who've gone through similar situation, including, Asian Americans, people of color, who we have very unique perspectives as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my motivations was because that what I went through personally on depression and anxiety, as I said. And society, especially in Asian culture, they just don't talk enough about it, of this kind of topic. And because, as I said earlier, that it's such a shame. And like, if I'm sharing my depressions, people think that I'm crazy. Is not crazy, people. And majority people that they do go through depression at least once in their life, and it's a very normal thing. So it just because of what I went through, I want to use my story to empower others, and showing them those rough times can transform a person to be a better version of themselves. And as I said, that you can become stronger.
Yeah, and talking about being a strong businesswoman, I'll come back to you, Regard, but I want to bring Amina back into the conversation. As a woman of color, when you started a different career, totally switched over. Talk to me about some of the challenges you went through in the beginning when you started your business, and what are some of the things you learned along the way to get to where you are today?
There were a lot of challenges along the way. I'm sure everyone experiences that when you're starting something new, but I was completely diving into something. I was exposed to the fashion world because of dance with costuming and that whole nine, but it was a completely new territory for me. Along the way, a lot of people would offer their advice and their suggestions, and do it like this, don't do it like that. And I kind of had to find my own way with everything. So it was like trial and error. So even finding my own factory was a difficult a difficult challenge, because as a new entrepreneur or a new business owner, however, they don't want to work with someone brand new. So they're concerned about money and if you can afford and what they're going to make and the whole nine. So I was able to find someone. I would go to conventions and that sort of thing, and people wouldn't talk to me. There was one guy that stood there and talked to me, and answered all my questions. And so it was kind of like little by little, with me failing at certain things, excelling at others, just the whole push and pull, I found my way, and yeah.
Well, so it sounds like, getting out there and just networking and putting yourself out there, like regarding being vulnerable and letting people know, what you do despite, all your failures. I think that's kind of the theme, right, Amina, in terms of keeping it going, because I'm sure there are people right now, trying to start a business during a pandemic or trying to keep it going. They're going through all these barriers and issues and challenges, but it sounds like you just have to keep going. And if that's something that you believe in.
Oh, 100%. You have to just go for it. They're going to be, even when you feel like you've crossed the hurdles or the challenges, you're always going to be faced with something, and you need to be able to find a way, or find another way. There are constant hurdles, no matter what is happening. If there's a pandemic or just life in general, there's always some sort of hurdle. So that would be my number one suggestion or advice, is to just keep trying, keep going. This door closes, go to this one, there's a hurdle there, jump over that, you have to, no one's going to work as hard as you, no one. So you have to be your own cheerleader. You have to believe in yourself 1000%, no matter what others are saying or what's going on around you. And it's difficult because you'll have moments, and I'm sure everyone, can share the same. You have moments where you're not as strong. You just keep going and listen to your inner voice.
Yeah. And, that's great because this is the kind of thing as a certified life coach, when you see your clients and you talk to them, this is the base of your business, right? Telling them that, hey, whatever you're going through right now, there is a solution and you can break through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I've had several of my own just in business. I've dealt with issues with my factory, not being super honest. I deal in business overseas, so to physically not be there sometimes can, be difficult. So things like that. I've had issues in my personal life that have challenged me in business. So just a positive outlook and staying positive and having great people around you and the support is everything.
That's so great. And it's great to hear your perspective. Share with me a little bit about your time launching your business, life coach business, during a pandemic. That I can imagine you're like, can I do this? You're probably asking yourself, what am I doing, right?
Absolutely. And actually, I moved across the country during pandemic. I moved from New York City to Las Vegas on last August. So it is an interesting time. I actually started studying becoming a life coach on 2019, and I got my certificate last year. I constantly asking myself, am I doing it right? Is it a right time? But a lot of times it's just a negative thoughts, right? And actually, I am so grateful it happens during pandemic because that we all got trained to using Zoom. And the beauty of it, of becoming like as a life coach and coaching my client, is a lot of time is virtually. We do not have to have it in person. And some of I had a client that he was in Alaska. I'm having a client in San Francisco now. And then I have a couple clients in San Francisco in the past as well. And I still able to give clarity sections for people that in New York and somewhere else. And also I'm going to hire a virtual assistant in Philippines. So even though it's challenging, but it is a beautiful time that to launch the business. So I would say that I turned this challenge into my advantage in a sense. Yeah.
And tell me about how you're promoting yourself. I mean, obviously you're so positive and you're an extrovert, you get out there, but I know the challenges of being in a pandemic, it's harder to get out there. So what are some of the things you're doing to let people know, hey, I'm in town, I'm in Vegas, I'm ready to help you. What are you doing to promote yourself as a business?
Yeah, so as you said that I'm an extrovert, I'm a very random person. I will just like hit up people on Instagram. I was like, hey, let's meet up, or hey, let's have a Zoom. And also that you have to be creative. So I got a chance to meet a person that they work in Vegas downtown called Ferguson. So I go on their meeting like once a month to just meet like creative people. So this is the way that you expand your network. It is hard. It is harder to meet people during pandemic because that you cannot meet it in person, but you just have to find a way and being creative. And also, as I said, I just like Instagram people, meet people in Facebook. I even like put a post on Facebook. I'm like, hey, is anyone's have a cool friends that in Las Vegas that it can introduce me? People are very helpful. They will just like link me up that way. So yeah, so it's that.
Yeah. And Amina, looking and hearing that, and, are you thinking about when you were just starting your business and kind of what you went through at the time and what you've learned from that and, from your first year as regardless going through right now?
Yes, for me, when I was ready to like try and get the word out there, it was social media that helped me to do that for the first few years of me operating as a business, it was social media that catapulted, took me from one level to the next. So absolutely.
And for you as a shoe designer, tell me a little about that experience. I know, people kind of stopped going to malls for a minute, but are people now shopping online? Are you building that business because of, people are now looking for that? Is it in a way helping you, this pandemic, in some ways?
Yes, for me, the pandemic did the opposite as to what it did to other businesses. We really kind of just flourished during the pandemic. Our online sales continued when the first announcements of lockdowns and all of that good stuff first happened. We experienced like a week of, what are we gonna do, And shortly after, it was about a week and a half, people continued to shop. I don't know where they were wearing their shoes to. But we talk about it all the time in here, that we think it's just the hope.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. No, I think I was just going to ask you that. I thought it was really interesting. But I think that's the other beauty of social media, is people can still take pictures in beautiful shoes and beautiful clothes, right? They don't need to be going anywhere to show that to the world.
Yes, yeah, people, exactly like you just said, took to social media with their TikTok videos and everything, so yeah, it was, this time has been, I know for some it was, a difficult time, but for me, it was a learning, it's pushed me into another, on another platform. It's just, I was able to experiment creatively, and because a lot of things were closed, we would get out there and shoot, because visuals are such a large part of what I do. Because I'm online, our visuals are really important. So we have a lot of, video content and photos and whatnot. So when all of this happened, a lot of things were closed. So it allowed us to go out and shoot and just be creative and experiment. And so it's been great.
And I think that's the theme I'm hearing from both of you, Amina and Regard, about, taking advantage of the opportunities you're given. And Regard, you said, even though you launched this during the pandemic, you took the advantage of, Zoom meetings and things like that. And so Regard, talk to me a little bit about your advice to new business owners, whether or not they're Asian Americans or wherever they're come from, people of color, or as a woman, we're talking still a lot of barriers for women out there, not just in the business world, but so many industries, to highlight what we do, and to really get out there and get that equal treatment from managers or from clients. What have you learned? I mean, coming from so many different fields, marketing and makeup and fashion, and doing what you do now, what's your advice for other women out there, Regard?
So I will break it down to three kind of advice. First, you have to know your target audience. If you do not know your target audience, you do not know who you're aiming. The second advice I would give is believe in your value. It's just like Amina, what she was saying earlier, that you have to believe in yourself. You have to know your value. You have to love yourself. You have to understand who you are. Do not let other people to push you left and right, because that if you do not have a boundaries, it is really easy to not liking yourself that way, because that you keep letting people push you left and right. And it just stand your ground. You just have to do that. And then the third is I highly recommend people, especially for entrepreneur, is having accountable partner. Being an entrepreneur will come across many obstacles along the way, and it takes so much willpower to push through it, as Amila was saying earlier, that you just have to keep pushing through. So some days you might just want to give up, but then when you're having an accountable partner, for the person that you can hire a coach, or you can have a really close friends to keep you accountable, no matter how tough of the time is, you will be able to push through, because that sometimes we have blind spots, right? And we are like, oh my God, I feel stuck. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. But when you're having a coach or having a very good advice partner or friends, they are able to show you the blind spot and the things that you don't see, and help you to reframe it that way. So those are the 3 advice that I would love to give it to the new entrepreneurs.
I love that. And Amina, I think, she's kind of reflecting some of the same things that you're talking, right? In terms of finding success and being where you are today.
Oh yeah, I would. That's excellent advice. And for people who don't have others to lean on or to get advice or suggestion from, sometimes you have to find it from within. So great ways to do that are just to, you can either travel or take a new class, pick a new hobby, do things to get your mind, in the space that you want and need it to be in. Because sometimes people aren't always there. I've been grateful and blessed to have my family and great friends around me, but I do know there are others that don't have that. So, just always try to be in a positive, creative, mental space.
Yeah. And, that's what Regard Tang does. And that's what her business is all about. So I think we can all really compliment from each other here. And there are days that you just need great shoes and that will make you happy. You know what I mean? So I think we all can really help each other in this space and as women and can grow. So thank you again for this great conversation and for Amina and Regard for sharing your insights and your experiences and just your wisdom and your inspiration, because I think the women, especially women who are watching today, I'm sure men can learn a lot from this conversation too, that, just really push through and believe in yourself and you can succeed. So thank you again, Amina, Regard, for sharing your time with us today. So appreciate you. And thank you everybody for watching this episode of Family in Focus. And we will see you again next week.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.